It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of TAXITV Live. Yeah, baby. How are you guys? Welcome to the big show on another gorgeous Monday in scorching hot Southern California. Today, we are going to do collaborating your way to more success with highly experienced, very successful taxi member, Mr. Greg Carrozza. Whoops. People are saying, is there any sound yet?
Uh-oh. You're doing a lot of talking.
Oh, no, we have no sound? Do you have sound now? Hello. Oh, damn it. All right, I am solving the problem. Can you hear me now? Hello. Testing, testing. Yes, sound. Okay. Could you hear the music? I don't know why I'm getting a delay. It's always something. It really is. All right. We was hearing you already. No music. Some people are saying yes. Some people are saying, now I've got weird. A loop. It's driving me crazy. Yeah. Okay, can you guys hear me now? Everybody give me yes, I can hear you if you can hear me.
I definitely hear you.
Okay, voices, yes. Can you hear this music? It's so funny. Some people say, yes, I can hear the music. Other people cannot.
That is
anyway.
Weird.
All right. So anyway, hi, Greg.
Hey.
I am really happy to have Greg on the show. He actually reached out to me and said, I would love to do a show on collaboration. And the funny thing was that, I don't know, 3 days before that, I was thinking, we haven't done a show on collaboration in quite some time. And I know that Greg collaborates quite often, so we're going to do that. But before we do, I'm going to try another little technical experiment here. I am going to play you guys the winning Taxi Road Rally promo video that came in. I'm happy to announce that the winner is none other than regular in the chat room, Carl Wurzbach.
Yeah. Oh.
And it's a really uniquely cool video. Unfortunately, the audio on it is quite low, so I'm going to boost it as high as I can. So everybody in the chat room, be quiet and listen carefully so you don't miss Carl. Let me see.
Hi, my name is Carl Wurzbach, and this is the answer. The Taxi Rally. I've been a member for about 8 years now. And I've been to the last 6 rallies. I haven't wanted to go to one of them. I'm always terrified. I'm afraid of people, places, and things, but I go anyway. And I have this amazing experience. I enjoy myself. I learn things. And it's not what I think it's going to be. But you can only find that out by going. You can only have an experience by doing something. And when I get there, I find that people are amazing. You talk, you mingle, you learn, you laugh. Most important, you find out that there's no competition there. People are really there to help you. That's an amazing discovery to make. But you can only do it if you go. So, go. I dare you.
All right. I hope you guys could hear that. Congratulations, Carl, on winning $200 towards your road rally airfare. You can reach out to Liz at taxi.com, and probably what we'll have you do is submit a copy of your plane ticket, assuming you're coming. You better come now. And just submit it. Send it to Liz, and we'll get you a reimbursement on it. I'm good for it, and you know where I live. Anyway, Carrozza. So, let's talk about collaboration. Is it a fair statement to say that it has made, I'm really loud now. It has made a significant impact on your success?
Absolutely, it has. And I didn't start out doing it right away. I mean, the first several years with writing music exclusively for Sync, I didn't really seek out any collaboration. I think I was just trying to learn what I could do myself at first. But it was a sneaky thing, like, just coming to the rally, meeting other people. It just started to creep in. I just meet somebody and say, hey, I think we could do this. And it turned out to be right. We did it. And I'm skipping ahead because, how to find people you collaborate with is something we'll talk about. But it just kind of crept in. And now, I probably do, I'm probably doing around 60% of my work with a collaborator.
Had you collaborated before you were a Taxi member? Excuse
Not
me.
really.
And working on before you were even doing Sync, did you collaborate other than maybe like band stuff?
Not really. Maybe with like one or two people over a period of 10 years, we did a bunch of work, but that was about it. I mean, certainly nothing like the volume and diversity that I do now. Yeah.
And would you say that more of your collaborations are writing based, composition based, or lyric based, or you need a sax part and you reach out to Paul Croteau? So is it instrument based, composition based, or what was the other one?
It's all of them.
And none of them like are more of this than that?
No, not really. I tend to approach it like I try to fill all the gaps with my collaborator. So and I have different ones who do different things. So sometimes it's the collaborator has got lyrics. Sometimes a collaborator's got lyrics and melody. Sometimes a collaborator plays a totally different instrument from me. So they have maybe those instrument parts, maybe some production, and anywhere in between. So I just kind of find myself filling in the gaps of what needs to be done to finish work, or even to start. It depends.
How often are the collaborations initiated by collaborators versus you reaching out to them?
So as you probably could guess, that's changed over time.
Because you've become a bit of a celebrity in the taxi universe.
I guess in the tiny little niche of this box here, yeah. So
I know the
right,
feeling, man. I've been stopped at my Costco. I've been stopped at a couple of airports. I got stopped in the Munich airport because I'm a rock star in the world of TAXITV, which means somewhere under 1,000 people on a global basis know who I am.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
No, none of that's happened to me. It's all inside the Westin.
Yeah.
Outside the Westin, it doesn't happen. But yeah. So obviously, it kind of started out with either it was mutual, like with certain people that I met at the rally, or when I would talk to someone that I knew about someone else, and I might reach out to them and say, hey, why don't we do something? And now it's kind of flipped into the other direction. There's more times than not, I don't wind up having the time to kind of initiate it. It's not that I wouldn't, it's just usually it doesn't come up that way, just because I've got so many things going already that I'm not usually trying to put more tasks on the list. So it's typically now that people come to me, and unfortunately a lot of the times I got to say, well, I got to do this and this first, so hopefully I'll get to it soon. But
take a number. Do you want cream cheese on that bagel?
Yeah. I feel terrible about that most of the time. It's because it's, especially when it's most of the time it's people that I've worked with many times before. So it's really upsetting that I have to say stuff like, well, I'm glad to do it with you, but I can't start for 4 weeks or something like that.
Well, I've got a solution. Over the weekend, I saw a thing, I believe it was on X, See how well I did that now rather than calling it Twitter? I feel like I've matured so much, or adapted, I guess is a better word. It took me a long time to get used to calling it X. Anyway, I saw a demonstration of somebody, maybe a talking head from CNN or wherever, interviewing an AI avatar that looked completely like the person who invented it, number one, sounded like the person, the speech patterns were about 97% perfect, and answered the questions so intelligently. So you just need to create a clone of yourself in the land of AI, and you know, it could be writing music, it could be singing parts, it could be playing all your instruments.
Well, I get to work on that, but don't tell my wife about that. She would not be interested in any more of me. one is enough.
Well, they would all live inside of your computer, so she'd probably never meet them.
Yes, she stays away from this, so it's all good.
There's so many ways I could go with that, but I'm going to keep it clean because it's a family show.
Okay. It's a family show.
So why collaborate? I mean, do you remember the first time you collaborated? Did something drive you to collaborate, or did it kind of fall in your lap, or did you hear about it from other members? Why?
No, the first collaboration for Sync was completely by serendipity. Like I walked into the ballroom at a taxi rally, and I sat down in the open seat, and next to me was someone I started to talk to, and we hit it off. We got a lot of we found that we had a lot of complementary skills, some overlap, but a lot of complementary skills, played different instruments, worked in different styles, and so we just came to the idea, let's try to do something for a specific listing, and we did. Since that was about 5-6 years ago. So together we've done about maybe 60 songs.
Wow.
I think maybe 50. I don't know. I don't want to lie. I'll just look over here and tell you what the number is. Oh, I'm way up. Oh, wow. I'm way off. It's only 40. It seemed like more. Okay.
You're such a profound liar, Carrozza.
I was over exaggerating. And I want to inject one thing right here, just so I make sure everybody knows. I know a lot of my collaborators are watching this live, and hopefully some of them see it later. And I sent out an email this morning where I blind copied like 50 people and said, I'm going to be talking about you. And so, some people knew I was joking. Some people took it the wrong way. Some people got nervous. So I want to make it clear, I'm not going to name anybody's names here, good or bad. I'm just going to talk about, generalizations, and everybody knows that I work with. They know I love them and how we work together. So,
well, who was your most nightmarish collaborator?
Yes. So let me give you his name.
Hold on. Let me see if Casey Hurwitz is in the room.
Yeah,
he is.
He got the joke.
We're kidding, Casey. We are kidding. I knew you were in the room already. Oh, man. So it's got to be tough now that people are reaching out to you on the regular, and you've got to pick and choose. But before you became, prom king, how did you know? I mean, it's like, how much is personality? Look, I'm going to take this back to dating people. You meet somebody, there's a physical attraction. That's got to be there. And then the emotional thing hopefully comes shortly thereafter and adds some depth to the relationship. Mm-hmm. Is it anything like that, choosing a collaborator? Because essentially it's like a short-term marriage.
Right. I don't think it is right away. I think right away, and I know for me, it was, I just kind of, I met this person and say, why don't we try this? I met that person, why don't we try that? And over time, like you said, now I have to be a little bit more choosy, just because I just don't have enough time in the month or the year to do things. But to give people some advice on the thing, I think that what you want to do is you want to treat it almost the same as the way you look at libraries and publishers or any other business kind of relationship. First of all, it's a business, and it's a business relationship. And if you become friends and you hang out and you outside of the music, that's awesome. But you want to take care of business stuff right away. So I think you want to make sure that the person that you want to work with is serious about the doing music for sync. I mean, at least as serious as you are. Right. And hopefully you're serious if you're looking for collaborators. You want to screen them, kind of like you were hiring somebody. Listen to their music. Don't take their word for it. Listen, check out if they've got any credits, check out if they've worked with other collaborators that or don't know, and hopefully you can follow up with them. It's kind of like doing a job interview. Of course, it's not anywhere near as formal as that, but it's kind of the same ideas. And if you get positive stuff out of all that, then you're less likely to have problems down the road. And you want to make sure that someone is reliable, that they're respectable, they're going to represent the work that you do together just like you are, that they're responsive. Like when you say, hey, we should change this, and you send them a text, you send them an email, they're like going to do it.
What happens if you don't like, I mean, obviously you're not going to like or love every contribution that each of you makes going either direction. Is it hard having those difficult conversations? Like, that's a great idea, Greg, but I don't think it works for this. Or do egos flare up? Or does anybody go home with their tail between their legs? Or is it less confrontational and more like team spirit?
Yeah, I have to say that I've not really run into that kind of thing. And I think that probably is because of all those previous things I just said. Like if you've checked off all those boxes, then you're probably less likely to have confrontational type of interactions with your collaborator. And I wrote a few notes here, and kind of one of the first things I wrote down about why you should collaborate is that you learn to compromise, which is a good thing.
So it is like a marriage, shorter term.
Well, of course, but I mean, but that's a good thing. I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with the ideas that you can create something that's better than you could do yourself. You can create something that you wouldn't be able to, or just wouldn't conceive of yourself with a collaborator. And so part of doing that is compromising, understanding that, well, other people have ideas too, and sometimes they're better. There's nothing wrong with that.
Not in my world.
Well, not
kidding.
mine either, but I'm trying to be general for everyone.
We're just having fun because we know each other well. Sorry, folks. This is just kidding around. Have you ever collaborated with a Taxi member in the same room, or is it always remote?
I have not. It has always been remote. And mostly it's been more of a back and forth, and not actually trying to execute stuff at the same time. And a lot of that comes from, just utilizing different skills, at different times of day, different time zones, that kind of a thing. So it's almost always pretty back and forth for me.
Are you more frequently happily surprised at what you get back? Let's talk about the time difference. So let's say you and I are collaborating. I'm a couple hours behind you, or an hour behind you, whatever, depending on the time of year. And you go to bed at 9 p.m. and I stay up till 2 in the morning. So I'm going to work on, you've asked me to add a second rhythm guitar part and a lead. And you probably hear something in your head. You do play guitar, but you hear something in your head, but you don't really play like Joe Walsh style. So you reached out to me because I do that well. And you might have a little image of what you want to hear, and you explain it to me. You go to sleep, you wake up the next morning, and while you're buttering your toast, you hit the play button and go, holy crap, what was he thinking? That's not at all what I wanted. is it hard to wrap your head around, that's not what I asked him for, suggested that he try, but it's really cool. Does it happen like that a lot, or is it more often, it's not really what I heard, could you try that first?
It doesn't happen a lot, but that's definitely happened. And that's part of what I was saying before. I mean, you have to, part of collaboration is letting your collaborator do what they do best. And so if you've got complementary skills, that's the perfect way to do it. Like this example is perfect. I mean, I don't play the guitar. I could tell somebody what I think they should do, but as not a guitarist, I'm not going to do a great job at explaining it. And it's better to just have somebody do what they do and hand it over to me. As the person who, in all the collaborations that I do, I'm the person that does all the technical stuff as far as the final result. So things like, all the editing, the mixing, the arrangements, all that kind of stuff, deliverables, all that kind of stuff. So I also personally tend to take in what anyone gives me and work with it. I very rarely say, oh, hey, this is not what it should be, or it's not good enough, or it's not what I think we should do, and try it again. I've hardly ever said that. I kind of I roll with it.
I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but do you play the mix for your collaborator and say, what do you think? And do they tend to give good feedback on mixes? Like, oh, I didn't even notice that, because it's another set of ears.
Absolutely. Always. I always play the tracks for who's a collaborator, and I always wait for their feedback before doing anything, because that's just kind of part of it. Again, it's good, whoever's working on something, we're all invested in the final result, so everybody's opinion is important when it comes to that. So I always do that, and yeah, most of the time it's great, and sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it's like it's kind of like what you've described. You get from publishers, like sometimes collaborators don't know, if they're not as specifically or technically musically inclined as I am, then they don't necessarily know the right words maybe to describe what they hear. And so sometimes that's a challenge, just trying to get on the same page, kind of a thing. But generally it's always good. It's always positive. It's like Taxi. It's bad when you get no feedback. Some feedback's always good.
Let's talk about the process. So let's assume that you initiate the outreach, somebody that you've worked with before. Let's use Paul Carrozza, just because he's the only sax player that comes readily to mind, and I know he's a responsible guy, and he's good technically. So you reach out and say, hey, here's a Taxi list I think we'd work well together on, or whatever the request is. And he goes, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So then do you offer up, okay, I'll lay out a basic track, and then I'm going to send it to you, and can you lay down some sax ideas and send it back to me? So do you send him the whole session, or do you just send him like a 2-track mix, old school?
That's usually what I would do, is just send a mix. And when you talk about Paul specifically, I haven't worked with Paul, but that's probably what I would do. I would be expecting that what he would be bringing is mostly saxophone or other instruments he plays. He plays a ton of instruments too.
Yeah.
Right? But I would say, I would probably sketch out the musical idea and then send him a 2-track mix or whatever worked best for him. I do that. I specifically do that if I'm working on a vocal song. So I'm sending something to a vocalist, and all they really need is a 2-track mix. If I were working with, I'm sorry, go ahead.
They import the 2-track mix into their DAW, and let's say on tracks 1 and 2, and then they start singing vocals on 3, 4, 5, 6, and do they send you back? Vocals be particularly hard because, you know, we all love to be a vocal producer, telling a vocalist, you know, bring it from your toenails through your heart and out through your mouth kind of thing, versus, it's easier in the room with somebody to go, could you try it like this? So now do they send you back multiple takes and say, you pick one? And that would be true.
That's usually what I would prefer, so that there's just more choices and more ways to get to the end result. So sometimes that's a lot more work on my end of the project, but I'd rather do it, you know, and rather think about more. It's kind of like producing with a bunch of takes as opposed to sitting in the room while it's being performed.
So then the more work for you is you've got a comp. You're taking down notes that, you know, first line of the first verse is great on take 1, second line from take 3. Old school, just, you know, but a lot easier to put together in the digital realm. So now you've done that, and let's go with the vocal thing. So now you've got your vocal, you've got your basic rhythm track, and you're assembling the rest of the thing. So it ends up just being you and the lead vocalist. Do they get half the money because they sang the vocal? How do the splits work on an instrumental or vocal performance versus a collaboration on composition?
Well, that's how the split works is really up to you and your collaborator all the time. There's no really set way it needs to be. I personally work with anybody I work with is an even split. One person 50-50, 3 people 3-way, 100 people 1% each, like whatever. It just an even split. That makes it simple, keeps it simple for me. And my personal opinion on it is I want everybody involved to have an equal responsibility for the final result. So that kind of ensures it. Yeah,
as you were speaking, I guess I wasn't paying that close attention. No, I was. As you were speaking, though, I'm thinking, well, it seems a little inequitable to me because somebody could bang out 3 or 4 tracks on a lead vocal inside of an hour if they're a good singer and they're used to, studio stuff. Whereas you might work 5, 6, 7, 8 hours on the rest of the track and maybe an additional hour or 2 on the mix. So time consumption has been much greater on your end, but I guess you could make the argument that you can't have just any singer. This singer is special and really works well on this track. So that's what they bring. Is you're kind of like my dentist says, you're only in the chair for 15 minutes when I get the bill for $800. And I go, but Eddie, Dr. Eddie, I was only in the chair for 15 minutes. He goes, yeah, but I spent 4 years of medical or in dental school,
Right.
So,
yeah, it's similar to that, but I just feel like everybody involved having an equal responsibility for the final result is ultimately the best way to get the best out of everybody. And I feel like the goal I'm personally always striving for is the best results. And so if that winds up meaning I spend more time on a song, that's okay with me. I never ask any collaborators, well, how much time have you spent on this, and announce to them how much time I've spent on it. It really doesn't, to me, it doesn't really factor into it. It's just, it wouldn't make much of a difference to me if somebody banged out the vocal in 30 minutes and I spent 12 hours finishing the song. If that's what it takes and it's great, then that's fine.
Yeah, in Nashville, the rule of thumb is if you're in the room, you get an equal share with however, 3 people in the room, everybody gets a third.
Right.
And one of the 3 could be getting coffee. Yeah. So I have heard tell on several occasions over many years that there are people who will troll the forums, taxi forum, forums.taxi.com, or go to the road rally, and they will seek out people that they know to be pretty successful taxi members that have stuff in many catalogs, because it is a faster way to meet library owners and get into those catalogs if you ride in. And I don't mean this to sound as derogatory as it's going to, but they ride in on the coattails of the more established, well-connected member. That benefit is deserved, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it. It is well deserved if they're bringing something to the party. Do you ever get people who want to marry you because you got a rich daddy?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably the thing you have to, if you do have more experience, you have to try to stay away from, or if you don't, that's just not the way to approach people. I mean, you're right. I mean, that is one of the really great results of collaboration, is that you've doubled your network, and so as your collaborator, and that's always positive. But again, you can find you find people in person at the rally, you find people on the forums, but you also have to be what I was describing earlier about what you're looking for and how you're evaluating somebody to collaborate. You have to be that too. You have to be serious, reliable, respectable, responsive. You have to have great music for people to hear already. You have to have some credits for them, for somebody else who's got credits to want to work with you. You've got to have positive experiences working with other collaborators. So when, you're asked around about, there are positive things to say. So it goes both ways.
Have you ever had a situation or heard about from another taxi member who's become a close friend where somebody does a great job musically, and your collaboration on this particular piece of music is a success? It gets to a library, it gets signed, and then when it's time to sign it, or it doesn't have to be about contract signing time, any interaction from the collaborator that's never met library owner A, and now your collaborator, who did a great job musically and acting as a professional and meeting timelines, is a bit of a wanker when it comes to dealing with the library owner because of their lack of experience, and the tarnish rubs off on you a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That I would say that has not really happened to me, and that's because I try to make sure that doesn't happen. One of the other things, I actually had it written down here, and I didn't say on the list of things that you want to find in a collaborator, is somebody that has already got a good understanding of this business. I have definitely collaborated with people who didn't, and I tried to get them up to speed with what the business is like before we got to that point where they had to deal with it. Because you're right, most of the time, if we collaborate on something, and then a library or publisher or sync agent, whomever, well, they want to have a separate agreement with each collaborator,
right?
And so so you have to know that that's coming, and make sure that someone doesn't do what you just described, which is make a mess of the whole thing and make you look bad, and mostly because they didn't understand what was coming. So I've tried to make sure I had that off at the pass and explain to people what things are like. And usually when if I'm going to work with somebody specifically for an opportunity, because there's a couple of different ways you would approach collaboration depending upon what your goal is. Sometimes I've got a library asking me for something already, so it's not to say, hey, we could do this for a taxi listing, but a publisher says, I need songs here's a brief, and we need songs for this show. Can you bring in somebody to work with and do that? So I start right off the bat with someone and explain to them what that deal is going to be like. It's an exclusive deal. We have to get it done by August 31st. It's in perpetuity, so that we're never getting it back, that kind of stuff. And so I kind of set the expectation right away, so that there's no misunderstanding, no non-understanding, and so then when it comes to getting that agreement signed, it's easy. It's already understood.
This reminds me I actually spoke to a taxi member over the weekend. Actually, I spoke to 3 taxi members over the course of the weekend. Do I work 7 days a week? Apparently, I do. Anyway, this particular member is somebody that I met at last year's Road Rally, who I think is supremely talented. I don't want to give her credits away, but she's got like real credits in the record world. Utmost respect for her as a person, everything about her, not to mention the fact she just loves analog studios of the same vintage that I used to work in. So that's our common bond. And she told me, by the way, I've been offered a deal by this company overseas. Here's the name of the company. I knew who it was, somebody that I have a lot of respect for and have heard about a lot of our members getting placements lately through that company. A lot. And she said, but I don't think I'm going to sign the deal because they want 100% of the publisher's share. And I showed it to a music attorney an intellectual property attorney that I've worked with, presumably on her record-oriented stuff. And he said, what? And I said, okay, I'm shocked that you don't know this yet because you're so industry savvy. But I realized all of her industry savviness is on the record side. And if you show any music attorney who has traditionally done record deals or even music licensing deals for summer blockbusters with major artists, they don't know about our world. They don't know about independent production music libraries. They don't know the kind of deals that Greg Carrozza and thousands of other taxi members have signed. So it really hit me in the head that it's like, wow, as sharp as this woman is. I mean, I would trust her with my life. I'd want her in my foxhole kind of lady. She's that sharp and that together and that business savvy, but just because she'd never encountered it before and neither had her lawyers, she kind of thought Taxi hooked her up with some lame-o company when it was actually a highly reputable company that will do really well with her. So it just goes to show both of us that with all the stuff that Taxi offers, these shows, the road rally, the forum, the newsletter, not a very big percentage of people really take advantage of that stuff and realize that they're entering into a business. Even if they were setting up a hot dog stand with an umbrella over it on a street corner, it's not just about making great hot dogs. It's about knowing the right time of day to sell the hot dogs, who typically buys the hot dogs, the price point that people seem attracted to or happy with or comfortable with, paying your taxes, getting your city permits, making sure that your hot dogs don't float in the water overnight in the warehouse till you bring them out the next day, which actually gives them extra flavor, I've found. I wish there was a way for those of us who have crossed that Rubicon and know the rules of the game to get everybody on board. So I am looking at you, Greg, saying, can you do a couple minutes on encouraging people that might be watching this to come to the Road Rally? Because I got a 500-word email today from a guy named Hugo. Very, very nice email, just saying what an impact the rally has had for him. And I just wish everybody would believe it, but they think it's marketing hype. So I'm not going to tell you what to say. Just if you think that somebody could have their life changed by coming, let them know that.
Oh, well, they absolutely will. I know that for a fact. It changed my life coming to the road rally. And I was reluctant to. I understand that reluctance. And I also know that the first time I came, I was a little overwhelmed. And that's, what's unfortunate is I meet a lot of people at the rally who are there for the first time. Yeah. And, they don't come back. The last thing I say to someone that I meet at the rally is come back next year. Because it does take a little bit more time to ingest everything, to get in the mindset that that's what you need to do. But all the information is there. All the people are there that you need to learn what needs to be learned in order to be in this business. You just have to go and take advantage of it. But there's absolutely no way you don't come away from the event without lots more information, lots more friends, and lots more connections to help you move forward. This is no way, unless you come and you sit in the corner and you do nothing. But even if you do that, other people will probably come up to you and say, "Hey, why are you sitting in the corner? Come sit with me in this class," or come
It is strange. I never could have imagined in my wildest dreams how the community would be so incredibly supportive. I think Carl's video did a great job. He basically said, "I'm socially maladjusted," in so many words. I really didn't want to leave my house. I didn't want to go to this big, scary event. But what he said was very poignant, because inevitably new people who come and they're very trepidatious about, should I spend $350 on a plane flight, fly across country, walk into a hotel with a couple thousand strangers that I'm going to be competing with? And yet you find that just standing in line to get your badge, inevitably, I think almost every person would tell you, I met people standing in the badge line.
Absolutely.
We bonded. I got a beer. He went for the next round. We became friends. We sat together, in things. And then that expands your group of friends, because maybe they're not a newbie and they've already got friends. They already know Greg Carrozza or Dean Crepane or somebody who's, well connected and been to many of them. It's so hard for me to convey that to people. I understand. I am not a social being. I don't like going to parties. I don't like going to weddings, things like that. I would go if I knew you were going to be there and I had a friend I could stand in the corner and talk with. My wife is a social butterfly, so she'll dump me as soon as we walk through the door, go hang out with a bunch of people, and I'll be in the corner. So I get it, people, but the road rally is, everybody says it's unlike anything else like that they've experienced. So I'm begging those of you who are maybe a little bit on the shy side, or, gee, do I really want to drop, a few $100 on a plane flight and another few $100 on hotel rooms? If you really want to be in the music industry, and success is different for everybody, maybe success for you is that one time you got something in a TV show that your family watches. Dad is super cool. That's a really big accomplishment for a lot of people. Some people are weekend warriors that want to make another 10 or 20 grand a year using their musical talent. Some people want to build an entire career, have music be their day job. The road rally, I believe, and people like Greg have been telling me this for years, that it just gets you there a lot faster than hibernating in your home studio. So come to the road rally and hang out with Greg, because he'd love to collaborate with every one of you.
I would. Yeah, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't come. I mean, I just wouldn't.
Wow.
And I just wouldn't. No, I know I wouldn't. I wouldn't have learned what I learned being there. I wouldn't have met so many people that I have and learned from them, in addition to working with them. It just wouldn't have happened another way.
Wow, that's a big statement, and it's not just on a musical level. It's on the, I'm guessing, on the business etiquette side and the shortcuts.
Oh, absolutely. I've always I think I knew this from the very beginning, that the difficult part of this business is the business. You've got to come in with music, that goes without saying.
Right, that's a
requisite. You got to be great.
That's
a prerequisite. The hard part is understanding the business, dealing with others, which is actually the same as any business, really. That's the hard part, and that's what I really learned, and that's what's been just completely invaluable. And now, you touched on this earlier. Now, I love going and seeing the people I see every year. I don't get to see them any other way, because the other 360 days I'm sitting in this chair. But I get to come and see people I haven't seen in person, and just hang around and not do music stuff. Just hang out. It's fantastic.
It is.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's special how the road rally attracts. It's a wide swath of personalities and types of people, male, female, whatever, short, tall, fat, skinny, black, brown, purple, doesn't matter. It's literally a melting pot from all over the world, I might add. And yet there's this incredible sense of we're all in this together. There's a sense of unity and support that I've never seen anywhere else. And people go, "Oh, Michael, you did such a great job putting it together." Trust me. I always say, I just poured the foundation, built the barn, opened the doors. It's really the people who came. And I finally figured it out as I was working on the panels for this year's Road Rally, which is November 7th through the 10th, right here in Los Angeles, that even though everybody is different, gender, ethnicity, country of origin, all that stuff, there's so many variables involved. You guys do have all have one bond, one thing in common, which is your love of creating music. And so I guess it shouldn't be surprising to me that everybody who walked into that barn that I poured the foundation for ended up becoming this awesome community, because you did have something in common. I guess people who race Grand Prix bicycle races, or equestrians, or tennis players, or concert pianists. There's an automatic bond when you meet like-minded people, and the Road Rally it does that.
Brings them all together. Michael, I'd say one more thing, and I get no compensation for this. Everybody should know. I honestly don't think there's a better value than the Taxi Road Rally, because along with your membership fee, you get to come for free and a guest. And I don't know of every other. I don't know of absolutely every other, group that you can join, an event that you can go to, but I certainly haven't heard of any other group that doesn't charge you to be a member and charge you to go to their event.
Right.
And a lot more money. So the value of your membership fee, which is what's still $300 now, Michael?
Yeah, first year's $300, next year's $200.
Okay, so this second Road Rally only cost you $200. There's no event anywhere that doesn't cost two or three times that.
Yeah, I would say the average price for events, whether like the ASCAP Expo, which was one of the better ones out there. There are many of them that have come and gone over the years. And generally speaking, if you get like an early bird thing and you're already a member, maybe $375, typically up to $500, maybe even $550 or $600 for some. And you're right, you could pay, like $350 to be a member of something, and then pay another $500 to go. But I've got my own selfish reasons for making the Road Rally free, which is I want people to get this education, because Taxi is much more, not to do a plug for my company, but it's true. I want it to be the whole toolkit that can help you be successful in living your dream. And just submitting to listings is a piece of that. It's not all of it. And if people don't understand all this stuff you're talking about, or things that they'll learn from their fellow members at the rally, they are living in an isolated world, and just working on a piece of their career probably won't succeed, because you can't just work on your backhand in tennis and go to the Olympics. You've got to be able to hit every kind of stroke. You would think I actually play tennis because I talk a good game. But it's true. You can't just be good at part of it. And the music, is a prerequisite. It's part of it. But just the business etiquette, not being, or what TV show was I watching last night where they kept using the word schmuck. But yeah, you finally get this opportunity. You meet somebody, you meet a library owner, they love your music, and then you're a bit of a schmuck on a social level or on a business level with them, and they think this person's just too much work for me. There are other really good musicians and composers out there that don't require this much hand-holding, and they could have Googled this. They didn't need to suck my time, or they could have gone to the Taxi forum. So there's that.
That's right.
So now let's talk about the uncomfortable part of collaboration. They can't all work out. Have you ever had to divorce somebody, break up with them?
Yeah, definitely. But I would say also, again, because of going through all the process I talked about earlier about, who you're deciding to work with or them deciding to work with you, it's never been so, confrontational. It's usually, well, let's go back and let's see if we can still compromise on something, or let's see if there's, can we put it aside maybe for some time and come back to it. Depends upon what's going wrong. Are the final results not working out, or is the process not working out? So those are kind of two different things. If the process isn't working, that's a little more easy to kind of get out of. You say, well, we really should be getting this done in XYZ time, and you're taking so much more time. I can't do that, kind of a thing. That's a little easier than, I don't like the result.
Have you had that conversation? I don't like the result, therefore I'm not going to submit it to the company that asked for it.
No.
Well,
Luckily,
good.
I've never had to do that. I've definitely, stretched a little bit as far as getting the results to the point where I thought it was going to, cut the mustard. But no, I never did that. And, it's mostly, again, because I just we've talked about this on previous shows. And I've said to you before, and I see this clip, you guys publish this clip all the time, about how I try not to say no. I try not to say no. And this is kind of an extension of that. I try not to say, what you've done is not good enough. I try to take what we've both done and make it into the best it possibly can be. So that's my own personal approach. I mean, not everybody
a great approach
or do that, but that's what I try to do. I try to get the best out of whatever we've done.
Is there anything else people should be aware of before they set out on a path to collaborate? As far as the paperwork, the agreements, I mean, we talked about the splits already, but things like a work for hire. Let's say you're collaborating and your vocalist who's singing lead vocal says, my sister and my husband could add some great harmony parts to this. Would you like to hear it? And you're probably going to say yeah to that. Would you have the conversation beforehand with your lead vocalist collab on this to say, let's think this through? They're just singing la 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 for backgrounds. Are they equal collaborators at this point? Are they work for hires? Do you pay them each $50 for the hour? How does that work out?
Yep, it's just what you've said. I've done that. That's come up a few times just in that kind of a scenario.
Yeah.
Because like you said, the first thing you got to make sure that you do is you have to have an agreement in writing with your collaborator. Because, and I have more and more publishers ask me for a copy of that written agreement these days.
Really?
Yeah. Just because they want to make sure that T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and that somebody's not going to come back after them. They're not going to take my word for it. They want to see a copy. So you want to make sure you have that. And then when you know in advance like what your goals are, because you definitely want to discuss that up front before you really start to work, then it makes a decision like what you just described kind of easy. Like, okay, well, we want to bring in additional singers or additional instrumentalists. Then we discuss how we pay them. That kind of makes sense. Or whether we should make them just an equal partner in the whole project. So it's a discussion that you have to have. But and I've done both. Mostly I tend to not want to do any kind of or get into any work for hires with others, because of course what I said earlier in the program was I would rather everybody have an equal responsibility. And I keep saying that word, it's not like they have a share. What they have is a responsibility for the results. And that's kind of how I feel about it. But you're right. There's plenty of examples, like, somebody's going to get their sister to come sing a third higher than the melody. They don't really have an equal responsibility.
Not a lot of skin in the game there.
Right. But, there's the other side of that is, particularly if you're working on something that is just, you're going to submit it to, say, a taxi listing. It may be a little difficult to shell out money for a result when
placing a bet,
getting anything back.
Yeah,
right, you're placing a bet. So you have to kind of have to weigh the option there. Maybe it's not such a big deal if it happens once. If it's always the way that you have to come up with results, then that's you have to kind of think through, can I always be paying for others to do these certain aspects of the songs that I work on?
How often does the collaboration result at where you get invited into the collab and your partner in the collaboration is submitting it to a library that you've never worked for, and then you see the agreement from that library and go, hold on, Babalooey. Although I think you and I would probably agree that most of the agreements are basically 50-50. None of them are evil. If anything, there's some dopey mistakes where people have copy and pasted stuff from somebody else's contract and put it in theirs, and it's in direct conflict with 3 paragraphs ago. I've seen that. But have you ever had a case where you collaborated, your partner brought forth the contract for you to sign because you're an equal partner in that piece of music, that library, and you go, oh, I don't like this deal?
I don't think so. I'm trying to think if that has happened. I've definitely run into a few where maybe they weren't, like, the language wasn't as clear as I thought it should be, even though, like you said, most of these deals are, very, very similar. They don't deviate very much, other than, say, if they have a term, or if they're exclusive or not exclusive. Mostly they don't really deviate too much, and sometimes they're not as clear as I think they should be, but usually it's not an issue. Usually it's fine.
We've been meeting with library owners. We used to do them like quarterly with a Zoom with anywhere between 10 and 25 different library owners that are regular clients actively using us. And it is funny because if more musicians, people want to believe that people in the industry are evil and trying to screw them. Nobody's trying to screw anybody. If anything, because there are a bunch of creative people that probably started out creating library music on their own 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Sometimes their business practices may not be up to snuff with their musical chops, but they're not evil. And they're open-minded that if somebody said to them, there's a clause in your contract that's really confusing or it sounds evil, they would be more than willing to take it out, but they can't do it for just Greg Carrozza because they may have 2,000 different artists or composers in their catalog. To customize a contract for everybody is impossible and unwieldy. They would need a legal department and a great filing system. So for anybody who's going to ask the question, why can't I negotiate with a library? It's because uniformity of the deal is something that makes it possible for them to operate.
Right.
A follow-up question that I get about that is, well, can't I ever get better than a 50-50 deal? And to be honest, I've seen it happen. It's rare, and it usually only happens for somebody that's been doing this for a long time, has a lot of stuff that's been very successful in many key catalogs, where the catalog will come back and say, do this project for me. Okay, but I'd like $500 a track up front, or I'd like 60%. But I could count the number of people I know that have that kind of clout on one hand. So for those of you who don't have the clout yet, now you know, don't even ask. Any other points you want to cover before we open up the chat and I feed you some questions?
I think we covered mostly everything that I jotted down here. I did have some notes. I'm just looking over them real quick, make sure we didn't skip anything. we talked into that. You know, one of the thing I do see one thing here, and hopefully some of these people are on the chat. One kind of unexpected thing that can happen with the collaborator is that you form almost an exclusive long-term relationship for doing music. Like I know several people who've done that. They met each other at the rally, and now they only do music together. Period. They don't do it themselves. They don't do it with somebody else.
Really?
They just do it with them.
So
yeah.
monogamous collaboration.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But I would guess that probably nobody would really go in thinking that's what they were looking for. But you never know if that's what you find.
I've seen cases like that where there's monogamy because there's the two people are so fruitful and powerful together that they're just on a roll.
Yeah.
And then they kind of get to the end of the road with each other. And it doesn't fizzle out like you're not my friend anymore. I don't respect you on a musical level. None of that stuff comes into play. But I've seen people go on like a 2-year run together where they're Batman and Robin. And then Batman moves on and starts collaborating with Catwoman. I mean, let's face it. Well, no, I'm not even going to go there.
That has been done. Well, you never know. I mean, it just goes back to you never know what's going to come out of that kind of a relationship. You know, so it's always going to be positive. You know, you're always going to do something you wouldn't have done yourself. You're going to conceive of something you wouldn't do yourself. And you also have that. You know, the other thing you've got is you've got the ability to improve on skills that either you're not as good at or just don't have at all when you work with somebody else who does have them.
Right.
When it comes to, I mean, I've and I'm not saying this in a negative way, like I've dealt with collaborators, vocalists or instrumentalists, whatever, who really didn't know how to technically deliver to me what they had recorded so that we can move on to the next stage.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
So they don't know, like, keep it kind of bouncing up near zero and then bounce it off to just a single or a stereo track and then send that over as a file?
Right.
Wow.
And so I've explained to people how to do it so that they know how to do it and understand how to do it. And then now they know for whomever else they work with, not just me, but for just in general. So there isn't anything wrong with that. I think that's a positive outcome from collaboration, is that you're going to learn things that you don't know. You have the opportunity to improve in ways that you can't otherwise. So there's nothing wrong with that at all.
I'm going to give the books away in the middle. Well, I'm going to give 2 of the books away today in the middle of the show and give the last one away at the end of the show. So what we're going to do, and don't vote twice, is you're going to type in the letter B for book, because that's the best I could come up with on short notice. I've gotten away from the +1 because that's like 2 keystrokes. It's amazing how people mess that up. And I'm going to give away a copy of Dean Crapane's newest book, Q-Tips, which is awesome. I did read this cover to cover, actually like 1.5 times. If you've read Dean's other books, you already know. If you've not read any of Dean's other books, you need to own all of them. I'm not saying that because he's a cool guy or he's a friend, any of that stuff, although he is all those things. There are some things, like going to the road rally, hanging out in the forum, becoming friends with other members, reading the books that we recommend on this show. These are life-changing things. You can be in this business for real, but you got to eat the food that we put on the tray and set it on your lap, and you will be sated, my friends. So I'm going to give away a copy. Oh, I forgot. This is the one with the lime green cover. It's the see-through book, Shortcuts of Songwriting for Film and TV. And I'm still amazed that here we are all these years later. It's the only book on this topic that's on the market. And it gets really 4.6 stars out of 5, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to give away a copy of that. It's see-through on the front and on the back. It happens to be lime green, same color as my green screen.
That is a serious feature of that book.
Yeah, I should really try a blue screen. All right, And what we're going to do is Liz is going to pick two people. And sadly, I can only give these away to people in the United States and Canada because shipping a book overseas, no matter how small and how light it is, costs way more than the book. So here you go. Type in the letter B, vote only, or enter only once. Liz will pick a couple of people, we'll give some books away, and then we will answer your questions. I'm not going to do them one at a time, Mary, because I don't have that much time on my hands. Which book first? No, we're just going to, sorry, I just don't have that much time, so I'm not going to do another vote for another book. It takes like 5 minutes every time we do this. The book seems transparent. How can it be packed with such good information?
Nice.
You know, all these years, I'm surprised. I should buy one of those green screen nylon suits and do the whole show with nothing but my floating face. I'm so easily entertained. All right, looks like we are slowing down. Hey, Betty Anderson, how are you? All right, Liz, pick a couple of winners. William South and Gloria Covington. Yay!
Nice.
Congratulations, William South and Gloria Covington. If you guys would be kind enough to email Liz, L-I-Z, at taxi.com and tell her which of these two books, Q-Tips by the amazing Dean Krippain, or Robin Frederick's famous see-through book, Shortcuts to Songwriting for Film and TV, Liz will send you out each a copy, and then we will later give away this book by Steve Barton, writing production music for TV, which is incredibly awesome as well. All right, and now it's questions for Greg time.
Oh boy. It's a part of the show where I'll make up any answer to any question.
Oh yeah, just lie. I lie all the time on the show. It makes it so much more fun, Greg.
Sure.
Now that's the scary part about doing a live show that's recorded.
That's right.
I'm so amazed I've never done anything incredibly stupid. Maybe a little stupid, but not. All right, first question from Bradley Hagen. Do you write the track first, Greg, and then track your parts? I don't know which instruments that you play, but assuming that you produce, mix, and master, and hire a couple of collabs. So do you conceive it, basically lay it out, then send it out to the collabs, or is the process different?
Sometimes.
Thank you. That was a great answer.
There you go. So it depends. It depends on the collaborator. It depends on what the opportunity we're working on is. It depends. I sometimes I get from a collaborator, something that they've started, like they've got like a melody, or they've got like a vocal that was with a very basic, maybe piano or guitar, and I'm just going to chuck that out, and I'm going to work with that as a kind of a starting point. And sometimes I write a music track from scratch and send it to somebody who says, hey, add a couple of guitar parts, or add this instrument, or add your vocal, we'll go over the lyric or whatever. So I've done it both ways. It really just depends on the collaborator and what they do and what they don't do, and what the opportunity that we're working together on is.
Josie Midnight wants to know, how do you get paid from libraries? How do you get paid by sync? From sync.
Okay. Well, there's two basic ways. The first is to receive an upfront payment, which is for a license to use your music, and you get that for mostly now these days You're not really getting that as nearly as much for TV broadcasts. You would get it for film. You absolutely get it for advertisements. More and more TV placements are no upfront fee and only back-end royalties. So that's the second way that you get paid, which is your PRO, your performance rights organization, which in the U.S. is going to be ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, but whomever your organization is around the world, is they collect the royalties on your behalf for the performances of your music, and then they distribute it to you however they distribute it to you. I'm a member of BMI, so they send out a payment quarterly with a statement of the placements and how much each one of them paid.
And it sounds like you're new to the whole thing. Just be aware that you're not going to make 99.9% of the time, you're not going to hit the jackpot like you would with a hit song. You're going to make $12 here, $78 there, $112 there, $400 there, all back-end payments. Depends on how many viewers view the show, the markets that it plays in. There are a lot of variables in that. And to add on to Greg's point about getting paid up front or not, on an hour-long drama, like if you get something in CSI, there might be an upfront, a sync fee, as it's called, of $2,000 to $5,000, depending. And then you're going to make back-end money on it, which could come close over time because of reruns and international distribution, things like that, could make a nice back end on it. So that's the trick about sync, is getting as many pieces of your music into as many catalogs as you can, in as many genres that you are really good at, because over time you build up your chances of hitting a home run. And I've seen people go from making $100 this year to making $20,000 3 years from now, because they work prodigiously at cranking out a lot of music, getting into a lot of places. So there you go. Hugo McLaughlin, what's it like to be such a rock star? He says, what's it like to be such a rock star?
Oh my gosh.
I saw a question from somebody. How do you feel about, oh, here we go, from Gwendolyn. How do you feel about in-perpetuity agreements with libraries?
Hey, I know Gwen. We've done some songs. So here's how I feel about it personally. And, again, this is my opinion. Especially when a library asks me to do a song for a specific brief, a reason, a show. I have zero problem with exclusive in perpetuity. And the reason is that song wouldn't exist if I weren't asked for it. Mm-hmm. So therefore, why should I have a problem with signing it in perpetuity exclusively? It wouldn't even have come out of my mind if it weren't asked for. Now, if I do something and it's my idea and it's to pitch to different places, then I would possibly be more discerning about where I would sign it and what kind of agreement I would sign it to, depending upon how I felt about it. If I really think this is a great song, I really think it's got a lot of ways that it can be used in the sync world, and I might want to just sign non-exclusive agreements that have terms, and that way I've got a little bit more control over it. But generally, don't have a problem with it.
A lot of people think that deals that are in perpetuity, which means forever, it's a sign of greed by the library owner. It's not. It's a sign of pragmatic business practices. Yeah. Because let's say you've got 5,000 pieces of music in your catalog and they're not signed in perpetuity, then you have to let all the places that you distribute your catalog to, thousands of tracks. This month, Greg Carrozza's song, Mary Had a Little Lamb, I Love My Wife, and My Car is Red have to come out of the catalog. Nobody's going to do that. I get emails from one of the biggest libraries on the planet every month. They think that I've got their catalog, and every month they tell me which tracks to take out, and I cringe when I see that, going, nobody's going to do that. And there are deals that's like, okay, so it's not in perpetuity, and technically it came out, but a year later somebody uses it, so our deal still kicks in. But what if you've then taken it because you think you're out of there and you've gone and signed another exclusive deal? So just know it's not a sign of somebody's evil business practices. It's more just about the logistics of taking stuff out that's not in perpetuity. That said, if you write a song that you think is going to be a hit for Ariana Grande, I wouldn't give that song to a library, and I certainly wouldn't give it to them in perpetuity. That's a different animal than I just created a 90-second tension cue. Tension cues, to give it to them in perpetuity, go write another one and give that to another catalog in perpetuity, and another one, another one, another one. All right, what's the difference? How do they decide? Straight Road Productions. I'm not seeing it. Okay, here's a question from John. If I hire a rapper to write and perform, pay for the session work for hire, and pay for the session as a work for hire, and let them keep the writer's share, would that be a fair deal for me, or should I take some of the writer's share?
Well, you if you wrote the song, you are already a writer, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that you already have the writer's share. I think that the question would be, are you going to pay somebody to do something and have them have the writer's share? So I personally wouldn't do that. I would again just be deciding up front, we're either going to be doing this together 50-50 and there's no money exchanged, or I'm going to hire you and the money buys your performance and whatever you do, and so then you have no future claim on the results. I think I don't really think there's a really should be a both scenario. That doesn't sound fair.
Yeah, or typical. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody doing that.
No.
Sometimes I think people might overthink this a little bit. I think they overthink the entire industry too much. Like, we get calls from library owners. I'm friends with several library owners that are really good friends. I talk to at night, talk to on weekends. They will call me just pissed off and frustrated when they offer somebody a deal and the taxi member doesn't even get back to them. It's like, why? You've wanted this your whole life, and now somebody, I mean, the company's reputable if it's come through Taxi, because we vet the companies we work with, and the vast majority of them we've been working with for years and years and have only great feedback about them. Why wouldn't you get back to them? Even if you've had a change of heart or somebody else picked it up, the right etiquette would be, thanks for offering, reaching out to me. I really appreciate it. However, this has already been picked up. And then you follow it up with, but I can make more of that same type of music. And now you've got stuff in 2 libraries. Or say, I didn't look at the listing carefully. I thought that this was a non-exclusive. I really don't want to put this piece of music in a catalog that's exclusive only. So therefore, I'm sorry, but I just can't do this deal. They'll go, all right, thanks for letting me know. But to just ghost them, that is bad business. As I've said before, there is no official blacklist in the business, but we all kind of know each other. And there's a place called Sportsman's Lodge in like Studio City area of California, or Sherman Oaks. And I would say that there are events there that I will see 100 people from the sync industry that I know sitting at a luncheon or a dinner or whatever, or an awards thing. And you end up at a round with 10 other or 9 other people. And it does happen where somebody says, have any of you guys dealt with this person? And I've seen it with my own eyes. It happens. So as somebody said the other night to me, don't be a schmuck. Okay. Okay, Stray Road Productions clarified his question from earlier. Sorry, I was asking about what was or is the difference in the PROs as far as how they collect and pay out. That's a good question.
Yeah, that is the difference, how they collect and pay out.
I think he's asking,
and
can you, maybe I'm reading something into this, do you have a recommendation?
I don't. I think that I've worked with different collaborators who are with different PROs. We've been paid different amounts for exactly the same placement. Sometimes I've got more, sometimes they've got more. Not really been any kind of reason for that. I'm with BMI, who most recently became a for-profit company. And so, there's some chatter about that eventually leading to payouts being lower. But I think my general feeling up till now is that I find that when I've got an apples to apples comparison, and there's not a ton of them, but when I do have one, I usually find that I get paid a little more than my ASCAP friends here in the United States. But it's still variable on a line by line basis because they use different methods for collection and distribution, and they sure as hell don't make that known to anybody.
There's an algorithm that Steve Jobs couldn't figure out.
No, it's not known to any of us, and so therefore, it's really just do the work, and what you get's what you get.
I find that it's a little bit cyclical. Because I've been running taxi for 32 years. It depends. If you're on the records and radio side of the industry, you might want to go with this one. If you're on the sync side of the industry, go with that one. But they go through times where BMI's got a little better reputation for 3 or 4 years because people are getting paid more. Then ASCAP will change something in their formula, and all of a sudden it's like, woo, did you see what my friend got through his ASCAP check? It's funny that you mentioned BMI got sold and is now a for-profit company. One of my very, very closest friends in the world is a gentleman named Ralph Murphy, who sadly passed away some years ago. But he was the international vice president of ASCAP, working out of the Nashville office. And he stayed at our house on the regular whenever he came to LA. And we would have this discussion at night or on a golf course. And he always contended, he was very pro ASCAP because he worked there. He always contended, think about it, BMI, Broadcast Music Industry, or whatever the I stands for, it's owned by the broadcasters, or the broadcasters control it. So they automatically want to pay you less. And I've never heard anybody else proffer that argument before like Ralph did, but I saw him, we were out having a burger and a beer one night in Nashville, and he got into it. The battle of ASCAP and BMI in the bar with an audience of like 50 industry people watching the debate. Seriously, it was a sight to behold. But the truth is, whoever asked that question, we've got members, I would say it's probably split about down the middle. And right now, of late, the last several years, BMI seems to be paying out a little bit more. And you get paid differently, instrumental stuff versus vocal stuff and blah, blah, blah. There are all these things that factor into the payments. So if you talk to somebody on the taxi forum at the road rally, find out what kind of music they're getting paid for before you make your final determination. Josie Midnight is asking a great question. Do you hire SAG-AFTRA singers? And by the way, SAG and AFTRA have participated as sponsors of the Road Rally before. They're thinking about coming back this year. And they asked me if they do, could they do a class or a panel explaining to you guys how you can get paid if you're not a writer on something, but you're a singer on it, and blah, blah, blah. Frankly, it's something I've never had to deal with. I've seen people sign documents and they walk out of jingle sessions and stuff, but that would be interesting. So I hope they come. So have you ever used anybody's SAG or AFTRA?
I've never directly signed a work for hire agreement with a vocalist. So I would have to say I'm not 100% sure. I've definitely worked with a collaborator who signed a work for hire agreement with the vocalist and sent me the vocals. So whether they were a member or not, I can't say for certain.
Greg, this is from Ken Crombie. What instruments or vocals do you play? What do you collaborate out? Ken, I'm sorry, I don't understand what do you collaborate out? Oh, I think he's asking what kind of people do you reach out to for collaborations because you don't do it. Okay.
Right. Well, I'm primarily a keyboard player, and I'm not really a vocalist. I always describe it as I can sing, but you don't want to hear me sing. So I've been saying that for about 30 years. So I can hold a tune, but it's not really going to be that interesting to you. So I've done some backing vocals myself, but mostly that's all. So most of the collaborators I work with will play guitar, because that's not really what I play. I've done it a few times. I actually did a song that wound up in a show that I play guitar on, which is weird, but that doesn't happen much. And vocalists, it's singers who also write or participate in the writing as well. That's primarily who I'm collaborating with.
Well, if you ever need somebody to play the guitar part to Smoke on the Water and John Pearson's not available, call me because I can do that. That's about all I can do. And Louie, I do great.
Nice. I definitely call John first. We've done a bunch of stuff together. John is so awesome.
He is awesome. Hey, JP.
You know how I met John, right?
At the Road Rally?
I met John on, let's see, it was the first virtual Road Rally.
Oh, wow.
That you made a panel out of me and him. And that was how I met him.
Wow.
In the 5 minutes before we started. That's how I met him. Yeah.
I've got to put him on a panel with you. Last year he was heading to Japan and had to leave before the panel I wanted to put him on. So JP, if you're still in the chat room, and damn it, you better be there. Make sure you remind me. I'm going to do a panel this year that is going to be like kind of a Sync 101 introduction to Sync. There are a lot of people, and we can tell by the questions today, that aren't as far down the road as Greg or JP might be. And I love putting members who have figured it out in front of a room full of people that want to figure it out. So plan on me offering that up. Oh no, I lost you. What happened? Carrozza, be gone. There you are. Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, just
I can't hear your voice. Your mic died.
Crap.
Oh no.
How about now? Is that on?
Nope, still can't hear you. Let me see.
All this on.
Let me go into my little audio mixer, which of course is virtual. There you are. Your channel is still there.
But no sound.
Now I hear you.
Okay. Good.
So weird. Greg Carrozza, keep talking.
I'm talking. I'll keep talking. Talk.
Talk now?
That's cool.
There you
yes,
go.
Here I am. Okay, cool. Well, that was just weird.
That was weird.
87 minutes of good sound.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are at the end of the show anyway, so I got to give away this other book. All right. So now I'm going to give away Writing Production Music for TV by Steve Barden. Amazing book. If you actually didn't even read the book and just looked at the appendices or all the contracts and stuff, moods and feelings and genres and glossary. Great book. So anybody who would like to win this book, type in the letter B, and you need to be in somewhere in North America, or otherwise we can't afford to send it to you without taking money away from my kids' college fund. Do you know I've only got one more wedding and one more college to pay for? I've got 4 daughters that range in age from 23 up to 43. God, I'm old. So 3 out of 4 done. No student
Nice.
loans. Yeah.
I don't envy that.
Yeah, I always say I know more about fashion than any straight guy should. And I've gone generationally through fashion trends with young ladies, you know. But nowadays, nobody like goes to the mall with their daughter. I don't think that that's so much of a thing anymore. It used to be, does this look cute on me, Dad? And now it's like, I ordered something from Amazon on your credit card. It should be here tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't think anybody goes to a mall with anybody
Right.
anymore. It's not really that popular.
Steve Barden wins Super Blonde's best panelist of the Road Rally. And the winner is Barry Ettinger. Yes, good job, Barry. All right, send an email to liz@taxi.com. Give her your home address, and she will send the book out. You should get it in about a week. Greg, always great to see you, my friend. This is the longest we've gone without hanging out, I think, like the last 2 or 3 months. Not a lot of hang time. So good to hang with you. Thank you so much for suggesting this show. I think that it's nice. We had some new faces in there learning some new stuff. And I encourage everybody, once again, to come to the Road Rally, because if you learn stuff in this show today, multiply times 100, because we have about 100 different speakers, teachers, mentors. By the way, at the Road Rally, for free, everybody else charges for this. You can sit down with a mentor, somebody like Greg. You've done mentoring, right? Or a music library owner, some music supervisors, and you get 15 minutes to talk about whatever you want or play your music. Road Rally November 7th through the 10th in Los Angeles. Go to taxi.com/rally. If you're not a subscriber to this channel, please hit the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up so that the YouTube algorithm loves us. And I will see you next week for a show that I have no idea what I'm doing, but I did make a note to call Robin Frederick and see if I could get her on. So hopefully we'll have Robin on next week's show. With that, I bid you all a fond farewell. See you in a week, ladies and gents. The great Keith LeBrant.